Hey guys, today I'm gonna teach you the opening you all have been waiting for so long. I got tons of messages and requests for the following opening. I guess you know what I'm talking about. It's lately very popular first move b3. It's called Larsen's Nimzowitsch attack or variation or opening, and lately over the web, lots of even famous top GMs, including Nakamura, sometimes Karyakin, Vashilagrov, they use this b3 variation. It presents a very annoying weapon by white players, so you definitely have to know your stuff playing black, and you definitely have to choose system to go with. Amongst many variations, I just chose one line. I'm not going to give you a couple of options here because I just want to give you something very aggressive, attacking, and pretty tricky, so these guys don't feel as comfortable as they would like to feel playing first move b3. So it's a modern system with e5. It's a modern, aggressive, and a very tricky approach by black. So let's get started. After bishop b2, they attack the pawn on e5. You have to defend it, developing your knight. They go e3. Those who play knight f3, you should go with e4 if that happens. But e3 is actually moved by everyone because they just want to develop this bishop and go after the center. Here, for the past 50 years, a classic approach was d5, and then white goes with bishop b5, attacking this pawn, and when you go with bishop d6, f4, followed by knight f3, and position looks very, very annoying. Just because of that, and because your center is kind of shaky here, we won't play d5, we're gonna go with knight f6. It's way more flexible. It's also developing, but at the same time, bishop b5 doesn't have all those negative or dangerous effects like the move d5. So still, the main move is bishop b5, but let's check what happens if they go, for example, knight f3. If they go with knight f3, you just take a look at the pawn. You just go with e4. So you attack this pawn. I faced both moves. Lately I'm facing knight e4, but I also faced the guys who played this knight e5 move. And here I'm going to give you a quite interesting approach by Kasim Janov, who played bishop e7, normal move. He's just developing himself. In case of knight c6, of course, you should always take by d-pawn and open the light square bishop, while the pawn on e4 presents a pretty good piece in order to secure black attack afterwards. Probably you're going to improve the position of the bishop. If you ask me why didn't you immediately play bishop d6, I guess because of the knight c4, where you just chase away this bishop, but they can also maybe even play f4 supporting this knight. So basically, Kasim Janov played bishop e7, d4, castles, bishop e2. Looks like a normal position, a normal development. But here, quite shocking reaction by black, which I actually consider very nice for black, and I like it a lot. Knight goes to b8. All of a sudden, knight is, I don't want to say in true danger, but this is nice. You just want to start chasing away this knight. So after knight c4, avoiding that d6, now d5. Knight e5 would be quite dangerous because, for example, he might move this knight back, for example, to e8 and kick it away with f6, in which case you have problems with the knight because, let's say you play castles, you go f6, knight g4, and h5, you win the knight. So basically, in order not to allow this, they would probably have to play h3, then you go f6, then they go knight g4, then you can get ready to take a good control of these pieces. h5 would be too risky for my taste here, because you're just weakening your king side too much. Maybe they can go with some g4. So I wouldn't play just like that. But this is kind of interesting. On the other hand, you don't have to play like this. You can just challenge that knight with a knight d7. But this knight on fd7, kicking it away with f6, playing bishop d6, and dragging another knight to c6 or d7. That's why his opponent played knight cd2. He played c6. I like this connected pawn structure in a pretty healthy position for black. And after c4, he played rook to e8. This rook on e8 has lots of I consider this move being very subtle because it fights against any f3. If any f3 happens, he's going to capture an f3, and in that case, they will have lots of problems along the e file with a rook on e8 with this backward pawn on e3. So just like in French opening. Actually, according to many players, this Larsen opening resembles very much in French. So after h3, knight a6, this is quite a nice idea. I put these arrows on this knight because take a look at the movement of a black's knight, because especially when the pawn is on h3, which in many positions stops h5, knight g4 ideas, but I have to be honest and to say that I prefer this bishop being on d6 all the time, because it's way more active than bishop on e7, and also opens up the queen on d8 to go onto the king's side. Knight c3, knight c7. This, on the contrary, reminds me on advanced type of positions against French. So you imagine that with the white pieces against French, you play e5, d4, c3 pawn structure, queen c2, bishop e6, c5, and at this point he brought this knight back into onto the d7 to go with f5. This guy played g3 to prevent f4, and after knight f6, knight b3, queen d7, this one bishop f7. I kind of like this one because he just wants to get rid of the probably weakest piece in his position. On the other hand, he opens up square for the knight, and this knight probably wants to go towards f3 square, in which case black would have lots of difficulties. While all these things are just fine for black, you can also break on the king's side, queen's side with b6. King b1, knight a6, h4. So he definitely wanted to jump with this knight even at a cost of a pawn. h4 to stop knight g5, but now he just weakened the light squares. That's exactly what happened, and he played bishop h5, exchanging the weak piece. That's what you have to do as a strategical part in your games as well. Queen e2, knight f6, b5, rook c8. This rook c8 was quite a nice move. Most of us would put it on b8. He's preparing himself for b6. That's exactly what happened. B takes, rook takes, c takes, a takes, rook c1, queen a7, and let's take a look at this position. I absolutely have to say that I would never be white in this game. Gonzalez Kasimjanov played many years ago, but I kind of like this approach by black. That's why most of players nowadays play knight d4. You play bishop c5. It's very interesting to understand the point of this bishop c5 move. You want to take on d4. So let's say they just play a normal move, bishop e2. You just play castles, queen e7. Apart from this, you can also consider taking on d4 and playing d5, for example. So in case of bishop e2, I like this castle approach, queen e7, but you can also take by bishop and playing knight d5. Yes, they have a bishop pair, but on the other hand, they have like a pretty bad bishop on b2, which is a good thing for us. Although I like castle approach, queen e7, and pay attention on this queen e7 move, not just here, but in many positions like this one. Because after, for example, knight c3, you would be able to go with this queen on e5, and then you want to go with bishop d6, but basically once they play g3, for example, they take, they can play some this move, but you have queen g5, so in case they take, you go with bishop h3, and that's why you first take the rook and then take the knight, so they don't have time for knight a4. And the thing is, if they play f4, you just capture, and then they have lots of difficulties on e3, d2, kingside as well. But you always have this possibility, so when they play g3, you go queen g5. Now your bishop and queen are hitting g3 pawn. You want to go with h5 and h4 to keep weakening this one, and bishop h3 to keep on with attack. I'm not only showing you variations here, I'm also teaching you how to attack. So queen e5 is quite a nice move, and I very much like this approach. If they take, don't forget guys, you always capture by d pawn, so you open up this light square bishop. Your bishop on c5 does nothing here at the moment, so most likely you either have to play rook d8 in order to prevent both f3 and d3, or you have to go with bishop d8, h5 and knight g4 in order to launch the attack onto the king side. I insist on the following fact: there is no knight around the white's king, which gives you great or very prosperity chances in terms of creating an attack. So we're done with these side variations. I just want to show you one thing. Lots of guys on the web played against me knight f5, and after castle they played d3, but there were guys who even sacked this knight on g7. Don't worry, don't pay like too much attention on this one, or don't get scary, but you have to know like very specific defense. You take by king, and when they play queen h5 to come up with this, okay, this was usually done by guys in blitz, so they're threatening knight on bishop on c5 and queen g5. You have to play bishop e7 only move. g4 threatens pretty annoying g5, and you play king g8. Watch this out, very nice and cool move. You're removing from the scope of this bishop, and you're actually threatening this queen on h5. So in case of queen g5, king h8, queen h4 to play that, d5. So when they play g5, d4. So when they take, you take. Queen f4, rook g8, and position is in full control. You prevented both development and activity of this bishop, development of this knight. You don't give them possibility to play rook g1 to take advantage of this file. Yes, you got a piece back. There is like material balance in the game, but black is the one who's leading up initiative. And finally, those who play normally d3, you just play d5, threatening this knight by bishop on c8, knight g3, and guess what? In a game, Bishop Gustafsson just played a strong d4 move, breaking in the center and taking advantage of exposed king. That's all about knight f3. So against knight f3, you play e4. Against c4, lots of guys try to play like reversed Sicilians, playing this c4 move. You just play d5 and you have to take by knight, of course. This is a normal type of Sicilian opening, and mostly people will play a3 sooner or later to prevent any knight before once they jump with the queen on c2. Amongst many variations, and there are like so many possibilities, I'll give you the following plan. Bishop d6. So when they play this flexible queen c2 move that reminds me very much of Taimanov defense, you have castle. But before we go with that move, I just want to show you an interesting plan by Radjabov. Drev played against Radjabov in many years ago. It's a little bit forgotten nowadays. Queen g5. This bishop is pretty tied up for the defense of the pawn on g2. They can't defend it for the time being, and on the other, because of pawn on g2. And on the other hand, if they play knight f3, you just play queen g6. which very much looks like a timeout of positions where you force these queen trades. I very much like this idea. Because once you trade these queens off, so h takes g6, you just have an open h file for your rook, and a pretty stable type of game. You threaten both f6, g5, and g4, or maybe even at some point e4. So when they play like d3, f6, rook g1, bishop e6, knight bd2, knight b6, rook b1, long castles. Well, guys, if you ask me, I prefer black's game, even though the queens are off the board, but you have an open h-file. You have a possibility to kick this knight away with g5 and g4, and whenever you like, just to get rid of these double pawns. You also have pressure on the b3 pawn. Black in pressure on a3 pawn, so they can't move this Larsen's bishop. All things considered, I prefer a lot more black. Although, if you're unhappy with this queen exchange, just go with castles and go with the standard plan that white players use against Sicilian. So they play queen e7 because this is nothing else but Sicilian reversed. f5, king h8, very important move in terms of organizing the attack, because you remove king from this diagonal and slowly preparing yourself to launch an attack either with e4 or f4, while queen c4 or any check possibilities will be off in that case. After they play b4, the golden rule is like, don't waste your time with a6. Just carry on with your development. If you ask me what to do in case of b5, you're certainly not gonna put it on a5 because of some knight c4 with tempi. Knight b8 would be terrible. You go here, and your knight naturally goes on f7 and even supports pawn on e5, maybe some even crazy g5 and g4 afterwards. Definitely your rook will come to e8. So after bishop e2, you go rook a to e8, and I put the green color on all these pieces just to show you like the maximum capacity of the black pieces, because this is an ideal type of game and everything is just ready for the attack. I'll show you a couple of games that I played and a couple other GMs in these positions. Tactical possibilities are really big, and they can hardly play this game. If they play long castle, trying to avoid all this kind of e4 breaks, you just play a5. It's a very typical move, breaking this pawn structure, b5, knight a7, threatening this pawn, and if the a4, c6. King and queen on c-file are just so terrible, as well as the b4 square. This is terrible type of position for white, so castle is not an option. If knight c4, you break in the center with e4. When I started to explain you these attacking possibilities, I insisted on this e4 breakthrough very much. I also want to show you and teach you, because most of you would make a mistake, like probably watching some videos and lessons by guys, you will always hear like, keep the healthy pawn structure. Here, believe it or not, you take by pawn. You don't take by queen. Because taking by pawn in some cases would give you like rook c8 with full control of the light squares, which is very typical for Sicilian type of games. So after d takes, f takes, and let's say they go knight d2, because knight d4 is better. You immediately put your queen on g5 and organize the attack. You pressure both pawn on g2 as well as pawn on e3. They go at g3 and bishop h3. Idea behind bishop h3 is I'm not allowing you to castle. You can't make castle anyways, and I'm threatening queen f5. My opponent in one of the Blitz games played knight e4. That was European Championship in Blitz. I played queen f5. He played bishop d3. I played queen f3, threatening this rook. And when he played this move, bishop f5, he collapsed. He's either going to lose his knight, or if he moves the knight, I won't hesitate. I'm going to sack either rook, either knight on e3, and he's gonna go home and forget about this game for a while. So knight d4 has to be the move. You play queen g5. This is a nice attacking approach. Castle is never an option because of bishop h3. If they play g3, well, for all of you who like tactics, this is a great chance to sack on f2 and go after a3 weakness. Now you see great benefits of having your king on h8 because they won't have any checks such as queen b3 or pins on this knight. You just play rook on on f8. Of course, if they play some king f2, you just take. They go with a king on e1, you just take on d4, and they're falling apart. Rook d1 doesn't help because of nice fork knight e3. In case of king g2, you just go with knight f4, and in this one, da-da-da-da, checkmate. So typical mating patterns. And finally, in case of knight c6, you just take on e3. You don't care too much about anything, and queen c3. Looks like this guy was playing around Black's king. By the way, I'm showing you a game between Gorovets and Fedorov, played in Belarus Championship. Fedorov played rook f8, and when the guy brought his knight back, watch out, white is up a piece. So what? You have two pieces, and he's got a very unsafe king. You have a couple of seconds to once again check your tactical skills and say, boom, rook takes e2. In case of king takes, check this one and da-da-da-da, checkmate again. And in case of knight e2, he came up with check, king d1, and the beautiful bishop a4. Great attacking game by Fedorov, who plays dragon opening, and he's always resourceful when it comes to tactics. But I really enjoyed this game, and I wanted to show you because it fully shows you a typical treatment in these type of games. Finally, those who play castle, you just play e4. No, knight e1 is good. This reminds me on Scheveningen reversed, but then you just go with f4, d takes, f takes e3. You know what? Just sacrifice and enjoy in your attacking tricks. For example, this is a typical one. I won like zillions of games using this kind of tricks. Knight e4, you just play f4, d takes, f takes, bishop h2, this one check, and mate is getting closer. D takes e4, f takes e4, just open up this bishop, everything is ready for mate, and in case of this, boom, your queen comes on g5, you threaten taking on e3, you threaten bishop h3, and I believe that with these explanations and with these arrows, I just explain you major ideas in terms of organizing and creating attack against this king and the king's side. Hopefully, just like in Mad Dog Variation or some other videos that I've made so far, I'm going to get like a big number of good feedbacks and maybe even your games. I'm also considering to open like a new type of videos where I'm going to publish out like the best and most attractive games of you guys who send them to me, of course considering the openings that we do on the channel. And of course maybe some awards like lessons with me or whatever. So after e3, knight f6, bishop b5, that's the main move. And here I've been thinking, what should I teach you? Because there are like so many moves such as e4, d6, but I opted for this modern and aggressive approach, bishop d6. It's nice because white was obviously threatening to take on c6 and to eventually win this pawn on e5. So when you play bishop d6, you overprotect, defend this pawn, but more importantly, getting ready if they ever take by d pawn to open this bishop and to push your pawn to e4, in which case you will open the game. I'll show you like how I always play these games. If they play knight e2, I just go castles, I push e4 to open up my pieces. Watch this out, I'm threatening bishop h2, knight g4, famous Greek gift. They have to play f4. So for all of you who are wondering what the Greek gift is, like d3 or knight c3, you just play like bishop h2, knight g4, queen h4. It's important that there is no piece in white's game that can control this square. So there is no bishop that can come on e5, knight that can come on f3 because of this crucial pawn on e4, it turns out. And if they play like this, you just go check, this, check, this, check, this, and for you guys, just have fun here and find mating pattern. Maybe not even like this. I don't want to tell you. Actually, you just have to do it at home and have some fun. That's why they have to play f4, e takes, rook f3. And the very important part of the move, they threaten to take on f6 to break like the pawn structure, and that's their only hope. But then you just go with knight e4. They can't go knight here because of knight e2 threatening rook. If they take, you have this check and the queen is gone, discovered check. So they have to go with queen e1. And when bishop g4, rook f1, queen g5, rook a to e8, you're just storming all your pieces onto the king side. And once again, I see like the maximum potential of black pieces in terms of attacking. That's what happens in case they take, but nobody is going to take unless you force them to do so. In case of d4, that's how I played once against somebody in a tournament game. I captured, played castle, I want to play rook e8, played rook e8, and now a pretty bad situation for white. They don't want to, they do want a castle, and they want to put the king in a safety, but they can't. Because in case of castle, guys, guess what? Great gift. Bishop h2, knight g4, and in case of king g1, queen h4. Once again, there is no piece to defend the h2 square. And once again, they can play like king h3 due to d5 and knight f2 threats. King is on the wind. And in case of king g3, queen g5, threatening knight e3 check. f4, queen g6, bishop d3, and f5. You're threatening knight jumps to e3, rook to e3 with some mating ideas. Position is undefendable. And that's why they play h3 to avoid this and to finally make castle. But you know what? You're avoiding one thing, but then you're creating a new weakness. I play a6. Now if you take, good, I have bishop on c8 open. So in case you play castle, I'll play knight h5, and now it turns out that this becomes a weakness. And once again, knight h5 is clearing, because I'm just clearing this diagonal, and I want to drag my queen to either g5 or h4, sacking my bishop on h3 and going after your king. In case they go bishop d3, you just go knight b4 and you win the bishop pair. Why is having a bishop pair so powerful here? Because I'll play bishop b7, and with these two the bishops looking like lost care bishops, black has an upper hand here. And we've seen bishop c6, we've seen d4. If they play knight f3, immediately kick away the knight. That's like nice. And in case of knight e4, take, bishop d4, castle, queen e7, and after f3, there is a reasonably a well and logical idea for black. Well, I see this bishop as potentially a big problem. Don't worry, you play c6, kicking this bishop away with a tempi. Take on f3, play bishop e5, but you also could have gone with bishop c7 and d5, although I like bishop e5. Because after this he took the center, he took like full control of the game, and logical development. Bishop goes on f5, this rook goes on e8, another rook goes on d8, and you just attack. And in case they go knight e2, what I saw like in big number of games, I'll show you a game played like 12 years ago by Navarra. He played knight e7. A very nice idea, reminds me of some Rai Lopez plans by black. This knight comes back on e7, gives you c6, kicking, by the way, at the moment you threaten almost to trap this bishop, c6, but more importantly, not just to earn the tempi with like building up a strong center after d5, but more importantly to put the bishop back on c7 and to have like a very strong battery and center afterwards. This guy played f4, knight naturally comes on g6, f takes, knight takes. This guy played knight g3. Knight is always kind of unhappily placed against these two knights and bishop like this, because you will most likely go with some knight g4 and queen h4, and attack is like so dangerous. c6 happened in the game, bishop c7. I like this, and remember that c6 and bishop c7 retreating idea, just to maximize your pieces. This guy now completely lost the track of his opening, played d4, weakened the pawn on e3, and after d5, I believe he was just watching too many games of Paul Morphy, and he just had to suffer because of that. Castles, queen g5, knight takes e3, bishop b6, Navarre captured everything, and this guy resigned. Well, this is a pretty funny way of playing with the white pieces, like, let me just try something. If it works, fine. If not, I'm gonna resign in like 15 moves. Don't play chess like that. Try to put up some resistance always. And finally, knight a3. The idea of knight a3 is to jump with this knight on c4, and that's the main idea by white. Here, once again, you have like many ideas and possibilities. For example, a friend of mine said, Maya, I like this option, bishop e7. So the guy just told me about this move. Because you can't take and take on e5 because of this knight on a3. And when they play knight c4, you just have e4, and then they just have lots of problems with this knight, with this bishop, and unhappily placed pieces. So this is an interesting move. An interesting move is, of course, classic e4 to open up this bishop, but I opted for very interesting, and it used to be the main line, knight a5. I know how it looks for you. It looks very odd, very original, and very weird to have this knight on the edge of the board to stop and to fight against knight c4. They play bishop e2. They move the bishop away, and they want to jump with a b5 to harass this bishop on d6. In case of knight c4, we take, they take, and once again, we go with the most typical plan. What is that? c6 followed by bishop c7 and d5. Knight f3, queen e7 to overprotect e4, e5, d4, e4, knight e5, move that bishop back, play d6, and he doesn't want to exchange there. No, he jumped on d5 and launched the attack with f5, f4, and queen h4. Terribly bad position for white, really dangerous situation for the knight on g4. White is about to carry on the attack, and Banikas, Greek GM in Greek Championship, won the game fairly easily. So after bishop e2, a6. It's nice because it fights against knight b5. For example, two great GMs, Sakaev and Sveshnikov, played the following game many years ago in Norway. Knight c4. Then once again you exchange. Now you can play c6 and a6. Simply it looks ugly. He also wants to play and to go with c5 here to give up double pawns and to take the central e5 pawn. Queen e7 in order to stop c5. This guy went with a4. Castles, knight h3, bishop c5. Very unhappily placed pieces. And here white made the mistake that most of us would do. For example, you can't play castles because I remember there was a guy, he's famous because he was playing this b3, Odesky from Russia, who's been playing this system in Blitz against me many times. I just played like this and I was just chasing away his knight, and if I just take on h3, he's about to resign there because my attack is unstoppable. So Sakaev played pretty logical move f4. I can't say that most of us wouldn't do it, but guys, look at this trick. Bishop takes c3, and he can't take because of queen b4 and attacking both of these pieces at the same time. Sakaev took on e5, and this guy just brought the bishop back to a7. Terrible game by white, and pretty nice game by black, who played everything on the top of his skills and using his tactics. So after knight f2, d6, bishop e2, rook e8, couldn't castle, and after d4, final touch in the game was knight g4. And in case of a6, if they don't want to play like knight c4, and they shouldn't, they can play knight h3. That's what this guy Odeski played against me many times. Amongst many possibilities and ideas and modern approaches here that you might go with is queen e7, threatening this knight. If they put a knight on b1, I'll play b5, go with the bishop b7, and I'll expand on the queen side. I believe that this type of position should be absolutely fine for me, because I get some space, but just to make it like very clear, white is not without any chances in this type of game. Black is slightly better, but white also has his own like counter attacking chances maybe. That's why Odeski played queen c1 defending this knight on a3. I played castles, this one, and once again against amongst many moves, nowadays c5 is considered to be the best. There is a very clear idea behind this. I want to put the bishop back on c7, play d5, maybe I even want to go with b5 and do the pawn storm. So after f4, when the knight is on h3 and bishop on b2, against this pawn on e5, f4 always turns out to be the main idea. And just when you want to play like d5 to finally get like activity, they take, you play d5. Black has a little bit better control of the center. Black definitely looks a little bit better in terms of development and initiative, but position is definitely easier for playing for us, although it's far from being even much better, just winning, as other people want to show the tendency of telling me like, hey, aren't we so much better because knight c6, bishop goes to d7, rook a to d8 or e8. Yeah, black is better, but it's not like a decisive advantage. And finally, in case of a6 and they don't do knight c4, they don't play knight h3, I'll show you a game between two Israeli guys, Mihalevsky and Sutovsky. Sutovsky, whose chess I really adore because he's such an attractive player. This guy played c4 to go with the knight on c2. Sutovsky played castles, knight c2, and brought his knight back onto c6. Previously, white was threatening b5, c5 with a tempi to win the pawn on e5. After knight c6, prevents like b4 and overprotects e4. e5, d3, he played b5. I like this creativity in Sutovsky's play. I like this b5 move because he just wants to develop the bishop to b7. After knight f3, b takes, d takes, queen e7. Castles, and guys, once again, we have a very typical idea of creating an attack. It's e4. And e4 is just one side of a coin, because without the next move, e4 is absolutely useless. So I'm not asking you for any tactics that wins here. I'm not asking you for anything too attractive, but I'm actually teaching you how to launch an attack. This reminds me of some Alpine positions against Sicilian, or reminds me of some other type of games and positions where they don't have knight and you have this battery. You play queen e5. You threaten mate in one, but that's less important. More important is to create some weaknesses, and then, just because you don't want to have this queen being under the fire of this bishop, you go on g5, even though he wasn't threatening anything dangerous. But queen on g5, it naturally belongs there. Since you provoked like weaknesses on the light squares, since you support now h5 and h4 ideas, you already have this bishop on d6, knight that can come on e5, bishop that can go on b7 and support knight f3, knight that can go on g4 after h5 and be sacrificed on h2, followed by h4. Definitely this position looks way more attractive, better, and prosperous for black. Guys, I just hope that you enjoyed this presentation. Larsen opening his very dangerous weapon in a hand of good players, but I hope with this attacking variations, you're just going to start cracking down their defense. Have a good one and see you soon. Bye-bye.